Hey kids, it's Auntie Robin, sort of Uncle Sam play on words there. Hey, anyway, it's me here, and happy late 4th of July. I know you're getting this video after the 4th and all that, but I had a little case of strep throat earlier in the week, you know, 102 fever, something like that, and unfortunately wasn't able to get this video done then. So you're getting it after the 4th, but I've got something super cool that I know you're gonna love, you're gonna get a lot of benefit from, and that is, I've got a good friend of mine, Mike Michalowicz, who just came out with his new book called Profit First. Now, Mike spoke at our boot camp. It was a phenomenal session, and in fact, as soon as I get done flapping my gums here and telling you about some cool bonuses and things we're gonna give you, you're gonna get to see that exclusive video footage from boot camp, his presentation that is free to you, no strings attached, nothing to sell. You're gonna get a lot of value from it, a lot of benefit. Our clients loved it, and you're gonna love it too. So that's gonna happen right after I get done this short little video here that I've produced for you. But the reason I wanted to talk to you first before showing you that is because, like I said, Mike is launching this book today, and if you go on Amazon.com and buy a copy of this Profit First book today, if you're one of the first 100 to buy today or even tomorrow, then Mike and I are going to do a special live teleseminar where he is going to go behind the scenes of what he did when he sold his IT business. So a lot of people don't know this about Mike, but Mike used to run an IT services business, and he sold it for a lot of money, made a lot of money on it. It was awesome, and he is going to do a live teleseminar and go behind the scenes of the negotiations and the dirty tactics and tricks that people used when they were trying to sell it. So that's going to be invaluable to you, especially if you are looking to sell your IT service firm at some point, or maybe you're looking to acquire some. So that's going to go to the first 100 people who go to Amazon.com and buy a copy of his book. And if you're a Producers Club member, go buy a second copy and give it to one of your top clients. And oh, by the way, Mike is also offering some really super cool bonuses if you buy more than one book. And right below this video, there's a link to a site he has where it details all the different bonuses he is giving away based on the number of books that you buy. For example, if you buy 26 copies of his book, then he will give you a free one-on-one consultation. Totally worth it. And then what you could do is you could take these books and give it to your top clients. I'm sure you have like 26 clients or friends or vendors or colleagues that you would like to give this book to. So if you want to do that, if you want to buy more than one copy, then there's a link right below it, and you can read about all the bonuses he's giving away when you buy more than one copy. But again, if you're one of the first 100, either way, you're going to get our live teleseminar with Mike and me on selling your IT business and the behind-the-scenes negotiations, tactics, and strategies, etc., etc. So that's totally cool. Now, when you buy a copy to get access to that live teleseminar, what you need to do is email your receipt to my office at yum@technologymarketingtoolkit.com. That is a real person's name. That is not code for like yummy goodies or anything. That is a real person's name. Yum works for she is awesome. And you're going to email your receipt to her, and she will send you the details on this live teleseminar and how to join us. So again, go to Amazon.com, buy a copy of Profit First. Do it today if you really want to make sure you're in on that live teleseminar, or tomorrow, and you're going to get that bonus. It's an awesome book. Or if you want to buy more copies for your clients, your friends, your colleagues, click on the link below and see the bonuses that Mike is offering. So with that said, happy late 4th of July. I salute you, all my fellow entrepreneurs and salespeople who make the world go round. Yes, we are remembering our freedom, and nothing gives you more freedom than knowing how to sell and market and generate revenue, because ultimately that's what we want. We want that financial freedom, and that's what we're all here celebrating you. So I salute you. Go buy a copy of the book, and now that I've shut up, or I'm about to shut up, you can watch the video from Mike at our boot camp. Enjoy it, and if you do, please leave a comment below. Thanks.
It's kind of a funny introduction when he says, oh, he has all these things in his business and all his success, but the most impressive thing is he did one good speech in his entire life. That's kind of funny. So it is true, my first home was in a retirement village. It was an apartment. And as Jeff was sharing that with you, you know, that's the ultimate bootstrapping. You know, when you got to do something to survive, you got to do it. And someone at the table there whispers, they go, so where do you live now? In a cemetery? I think I'm Dr. Frankenstein. Actually, I am convinced I'm Dr. Frankenstein. And I suspect everyone here in this room is also part of the Frankenstein family. And the reason I know this is because we can bring crazy ideas to life. Uncle Frankenstein, our great uncle, he stitched together, body parts that he found at the retirement village. He stitched together body parts and brought it to life. And we do the same thing. We go to our laboratory, which is usually our basement or our kitchen table, with this crazy idea and say, we can bring this to life. I'm going to start this business. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to pull in all the money I have, which is credit cards, and stitch this stuff together. And you go into your laboratory. By the way, if anyone wants to be a professional speaker already tip 1 to being a professional speaker, never turn your back to the audience unless you got this going on. All right? That's So you go to your laboratory and you put on your crazy goggles and you sit there and you stitch together this concept of an idea and you turn around and go, it's alive. My business, it's alive. And it's in this moment you realize you're a little crazy. You're a little loco because no one's buying it. This magnificent concept we had of starting this IT business that everyone needs doesn't start generating revenue. And sometimes you realize you're Dr. Frankenstein during the first week, or sometimes it takes a month, or if you're real lucky, it takes a full year. But at a certain point, you realize that dream you had, that business you were creating, it's a monster. It's a cash-eating monster. And then the panic ensues. How am I going to get this to survive? This thing is just sucking the life out of me. I got to make more money. I got to make more revenue. And so what do we start doing? We start selling more. Sell, sell, sell. It becomes the mantra of almost every entrepreneur. It became my mantra, sell, sell, sell. And the only way to succeed, I thought, was if that one big client would finally come in and buy from me. And finally, my check-to-check business would make it. Or perhaps one investor would come in and buy my business. Oh, they like Frankenstein. They think he's very cute. Hopefully they'll buy him. And I'd sit there and pray, and I'd work relentlessly through the night to keep this monster alive. And the craziest part of all, as my little Frankenstein turned into a big Frankenstein monster of a business, it consumed more. It didn't give me more freedom. It gave me less as the business grew. Well, just by show of hands, how many people here have sold their companies, have sold their businesses? Okay, good. So there's like 6 lottery winners here. Because what I found out is when it comes to selling a business, it doesn't happen that often. Yet it was my dream, perhaps it's your dream. So I was praying for that moment the big investor would come in. And I was very fortunate. Lightning hit me twice. I was an IT integrator, had a company in Denville, New Jersey, grew it to top line revenue of a couple million, and it was just eating me alive. I was living still off of credit cards, and a private equity group came in and bought it. And in that moment, I finally achieved some wealth for myself. I said, oh, that's the formula. That's the success formula. Build, have that moment where you sell the business, and that's where you make your money. So my second company was in computer crime investigations. What happened to me was I was running the business, and 6 months later, the Enron trial broke, if you've heard of that one. And my company, got a major part of that trial, and we facilitated the investigation of Enron. The legal clauses lapsed. I can tell you our findings. They were guilty, very guilty. And that company was bought by a Fortune 500. And I achieved a lot of wealth. First day of my life, I was a millionaire. I was 35 years old. I was a millionaire. That's what millionaires do, in case you didn't recognize that. Clearly, you're not a millionaire. That's the millionaire move. So I was a millionaire, but a paper millionaire. And what a paper millionaire is you get $1 million in your bank account for a day, and then taxes come and brings you back under. That's what I was. But still, my mind thought I was living this new life of the millionaire. So what happened to me, and there's no other way to put this, well, there probably is, but I became a dick. A total dick. And how it started, thanks for laughing, everyone, thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, there's a dick on stage, that's awesome. Oh my God, we are getting drunk tonight. So, thank you, brother. We are, actually, we are. That's my father. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. I didn't mean like, whatever. All right, so you guys totally fucked with my whole story now. What was going on? Oh, dick, right. So, I became a dick, and this is how dickhood begins. The first thought in your mind is like, oh my God, I know the success formula. Like, I know it, and they don't know it. Therefore, I must be smarter and better than the rest of humanity. Dick. And then what happens is the next level says, now I must show all of humanity how successful I am, because I am a millionaire after all. The next morning I drive to, first I buy a Dodge Viper. I saw it in college. I was like, when I'm successful one day, I'll own a Dodge Viper. Women know it is he has a small penis car. That is true. Well, except in my case. Thank you. So what we learned so far is he's a dick and he has a massive penis. Like, that's what you've learned so far. And the funny thing is I see one person there taking like notes like crazy. We haven't got there yet. We haven't got there yet. So I buy the Dodge Viper, pull that in, and by 10 o'clock in the morning, so I bought it at like 8 in the morning when the store opens, and then I'm like, well, I think it's time to get another car. It's, it's 2 hours later. So my wife and I drove to the Land Rover dealer. Millionaires call it Land Rover, in case you didn't know that. But we went to the Land Rover dealer, and I go into the store, and the sales manager comes over, and I sit down in the chair, and the sales manager comes running over hey, how may we help you, sir? Are you considering a vehicle? And I said, we don't have much time here. I just need to buy a car right now. And you don't have to tell me everything. Here's what I want. I want your most expensive car. Dick. Right? He does the giddy hand clap like an alligator kind. He's like, oh, yes, sir. And he does this run. Like, what was that movie where they have the coconuts? That, that movie? What movie was that? Monty Python, thank you, yeah. Like Monty Python, he runs away like this. And I'm sitting here in the chair, actually more like this, because I'm sitting in the chair like this, and my wife, Krista, looks at me, and she goes, can we really afford this car? And I'm embarrassed to admit this. Actually, I choke up when I say this. I look at her, and I go, we've got more money than God. Yeah, I really said that. And I'm not a religious person. I'm not spiritual. I mean, I'm not, but I'm not like active participant. But God did talk to me. God did talk to me. Some people say, oh, I had a calling. I was at church or somewhere. All of a sudden I felt a calling. I was sitting in the chair, and God kicked me in the nuts. That was the calling. Because I said we have more money than God, and I swear to you, I felt every ounce of my heart and soul get sucked away in that moment. And I think the words were something like, it's your time for a lesson. And I kind of blew it off and said, let's check out this new car we got. And then by noon that day, I was driving on an LR3 and bought a 7 Series BMW by the afternoon. It took me 2 years, and I was able to lose every single penny. So if anyone wants advice how to lose $1 million in 2 years, I'm like masterful at this. And I can teach you that one too. I became an investor, an angel investor, I started 10 different companies with entrepreneurs that had just an idea, mostly people right out of college, kids, had no entrepreneurial experience, said, I have a great idea. And I said, oh, I love great ideas. Here's $50,000, and just listen to me. After all, I thought I was King Midas. Anything I touch turns to gold. I'm a genius. I built and sold 2 companies. 10 companies started. Within 1 year, 9 companies out of business. So bad that I was paying the expenses for these companies, and they didn't even exist anymore. I was paying bills for them. I joined the country club, and how the country club works in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey, where I am, is the more you contribute to the country club, the higher your name goes on the little wall of fame, the membership list. And I was doing everything to be on top. On February 14th, 2008, I get a phone call from my accountant. His name's Keith. And he says, hey, Mike, I finished your taxes early this year because there's not much going on. You're not making much money. And he said, so we're all done. I just want to give you a heads up. On April 15th, you're going to owe roughly, I think it was $25,000. And I remember when Keith said I owe $25,000, that my bank account on that day was $10,000. And I felt this knife go into me saying, oh my God, every penny I've made, I've stolen away. I don't have enough money to pay my taxes. And I tell Keith on the phone, I'm like, if you don't have enough money to pay your taxes, like, what happens? And he goes, you go to jail. I'm like, seriously? He's like, yeah, you should pay him. So now that knife is in, and now it's twisting around. I went home on February 14th, 2008, to my family. Because on February 14th, at our house, at the Michalowicz house, it's kind of like Thanksgiving for us. We prepare a big dinner. My children, my wife and I, we all cook it together, and we put the food on the table, and then we'll go around, and we go through a process. Instead of just giving cards, we actually write a note to each other, to every single person in the family, saying why you love them and what you recognize about this year that made you love them even more. It's a process we go through every year. It's a ritual for us. I come home, my family is finishing the meal, and they're ready for me to cook, and I'm like Frankenstein. I'm just a zombie when I come in. And I'm doing everything I can just to hold it together. I sit down at the dining room table, and I can't help, I just slump like this. And my wife says, Krista says, what's wrong, Mike? And that was the moment the first tear came down. And then I said, I lost it all. I lost it all. Actually, I stole it all. I stole it from us. The cars, the arrogance, everything. I've lost every single penny. And I started sobbing. And I know not everyone here, but a lot of you have children here. My kids are around the table and had no idea how to react. My wife didn't know how to react. Everyone's just looking at me, and like tears are pouring down and snot coming out. I mean, it was disgusting. It wasn't like this pretty, like, oh, he's crying. No, it's like, freak, he's crying. God, snot and stuff. And I can barely breathe, like that type stuff. Thanks for laughing at that one, too. I appreciate that. And I said, I don't know how we're going to pay a bill. We can't keep the house. I can't keep any of our cars. Everything's gone. Everything's done. I don't know what we're going to do. It may be back to the retirement village is what it boiled down to. And my family reacted like I think how any family would react, is just stunned. I was trying to keep this secret. I was keeping my spending habits and arrogance secret as best as I could, except this part. And they just stared at the chandelier in our dining room table, and no one could look at me. I couldn't barely look at me. And my daughter, 9 years old, runs out of the room, Adela. And I remember, I was like, I want to run out of the room so badly myself. That's the thing to do. I just want to run away. And about a minute later, she came back with her piggy bank. And she put it on the table, and she looked at me, and she said, Dad, I'll cover us. And that's a humbling moment. That was, I believe, the second time I heard from God. And he, she, it said, okay, lesson learned. Now you have to learn how to fix this. I learned that well-dressed poverty is still poverty. I learned that wealth is not a moment, it is a habit. And from that day forward till this moment we're talking right now, I want to share with you on what I learned about making wealth, making profit a habit. If in your business, in your life, you're seeking profit in a moment, that one big client, the one big event, it probably won't happen. It happened to 6 people here. But from my experience, it's a lottery win. True wealth are the men and women who make profit happen every single day. It's a series of small, small wins. Now, when that piggy bank was put in front of me, I wasn't like, oh, okay, everything's fixed, everything's gloriful. Okay, that's a magical word that means glory and something. And everything wasn't glorious. I actually went into depression. I subsequently have done research and found that about 70% of entrepreneurs have gone through some form of depression. So something like 60 to 80%, somewhere in that range, have dyslexia or some other kind of brain modification. Some are bipolar. That means this group, we're psychopaths. This is a psychopath convention. So perhaps you've went through depression. Not many people talk about it, but I did. And I want to tell you what it's like because it's important we get the reality out. I started drinking a lot. I started watching a lot of TV. I could not sleep. I remember that night, and for years, or for at least a year or two, I could not sleep, so I would just watch the infomercials. I watched every television show I could watch. I was watching Jersey Shore, you know, and loving it. No, I wasn't. And I'm just sitting there in front of the TV like this, and finally, I had watched so many shows, I got into the infomercials, and I'm sitting there with my Milwaukee's Best. It's a beer. Yeah, it's a cheap, cheap, cheap beer. Milwaukee's Best Doritos stain, and just watching infomercials. And the most common infomercial, if you don't know, is the fitness ones. You know, P90X and stuff like that. But there's a lot of the gimmick ones, and those are the ones I was watching. First, they have Jack LaLanne juicer, so I bought it. You know, so and literally you can juice anything with this. I'm like, oh, we can eat olives? Oh my God, you know, and you know, what is that stuff in the refrigerator with mold? Let's juice it, bring it back to life. I bought the what the hell else did I buy? The juicer, something else that was the ab inductor. Do you know this thing? You put this like strap system around you and it electrocutes you. And I bought. And I hope some of you in this room bought. I bought the Thigh Master too. So this is how pathetic my depression was. I'm sitting there watching TV with some juiced mold, an ab inductor going, and my legs clamping together, and I'm just sitting here. And maybe it was that moment, I don't know, but I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I gotta watch a different channel. And I turned off the infomercials, and I turned on the local PBS channel, and there was a fitness expert there. And he was giving a seminar in front of a group of people, and he said, do you know what? Gimmicks, ab inductors and so forth, don't work. In fact, he said, if you see the before and after pictures, those shows are cheating you out of the after pictures. You lose weight rapidly, you have a moment, but you haven't learned the discipline, you don't have the habit, and you grow again. He said, in fact, there's one key method to getting fit, and it's smaller plates. He said the plates are of such size, so big in the American diet, actually in the international diet now too, that we have been trained, I guess by our mothers, to eat everything on our plate. I remember my mom always saying, Mike, if you don't finish what's up on the plate, there's children starving in Africa. Mike, get fat so people don't starve. Like, that makes no sense, but that's what she was saying. So we've been trained that if it's on the plate, eat it. And the plates have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, oh my God, I wonder if this applies to the way the health of my business, the way I was running my business. You see, in my business, and perhaps yours, I had one plate, my checking account. All the money would go in there, and I'd look at that plate, and I think that's how much money I have available to spend on my business. And it caused a very unhealthy diet in my business. Well, I got so interested in the principles of health and fitness that I studied all the principles. And I found there's 4 core principles. First of all, smaller plates. Reduce the plate size, less caloric intake. Less caloric intake, you start losing weight. Second principle, eat your vegetables first. Most people, vegetables come last. Eat your vegetables first, you get the nutrients and stuff you need, you actually start filling up, and you won't consume as much of the other stuff. By eating your vegetables first, you bring balance. The third principle, remove temptation. Remove temptation. That one thing that just gets you every single time, don't stockpile it, get it out of the house. And the fourth thing was the frequency we eat. Most people eat actually too infrequently, 2 meals a day. They say, we say 3, but we skip breakfast because we're rushing off to somewhere, and then we go into a gorge. We got to eat a lot. Or other groups of us, we just constantly snack. There's always snacks in front of us, and we're constantly eating. Either one results in high caloric intake. Well, once I discovered these principles to the healthy diet, I wanted to see, and they did, translate to a healthy business. And that's what I wanted to do in the next hour together, is to teach you this process. I call it Profit First. And I promise you that if you implement this today, because you can, it's so simple, that you will start experiencing a profit from your very next deposit forward. I don't care what the status is of your business. I suspect there's some people in here that are doing well, and you can maximize your profit. I suspect there's a lot of people in here that are check to check, or some people that are really struggling. I don't care what the stage of your business is in now, implementing Profit First will fix it today. So, let's go over the 4 core principles. First is smaller plates. Back in the 1700s, the plate size in the American diet was half its current size. George Washington, you look at George Washington, and I know you're thinking he was ripped because he was paddling across the Delaware, and he had wooden teeth and stuff, you couldn't eat with those things anyway. No, G-Dub, and he's the real G-Dub, by the way. G-Dub was ripped because he ate off a smaller plate. In the 1700s, the American diet plates were half the size they are today. Literally half the size. Now, there was one guy that we all know of that had a little weight issue back in the 1700s, Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin. And the funny thing is, guess who's the guy who inspired bigger plates? Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was sitting at a dinner one day with a friend, and he was wearing his glasses. And he remembered, and he quoted, this is an exact quote. I did not interview him if you're thinking that. But he's been quoted to say he looked at his guest and could see the person clearly, and when he looked down at his plate, which was close by, he couldn't see it clearly. He didn't know how much food was there. So what did he do? He invented the bifocal. And so now he could see his guest, and he could see his food, and he said, damn, that's a small plate. Bigger plates. And plates started expanding over time. This is how it applies in our businesses. Most businesses in here operate off of 1 or 2 accounts, maybe 3. We have our checking account. All the deposits go in there. We often call it our operating account. All the deposits go in there, and then you apportion money, you pay bills from there. You pay yourself perhaps from there. The profits accumulate there, if there's ever profits. And maybe you have a payroll account, maybe you have another account, but for most businesses, we have one main account, the operating account. That is basically one big plate. It's basically putting everything on a massive plate, and we look at it and we think it's all available to us, when it's really not. Think about Thanksgiving dinner. When you have Thanksgiving at your house, do you bring out the turkey and say, wait, don't touch the turkey yet. Let's put the stuffing on top of it and the cranberry sauce and the yams and all this stuff. Let's just put it on one massive plate and everyone dive into it. No, you allocate. You cut off a little turkey. This is for you. That's for you. You portion it out. We need to do the same in our business because then we'll see what's really available to eat. And this is what I encourage you to do and want you to do today. Set up more accounts with your bank. Set up a profit account, an account that's labeled profit. Set up another account that's labeled owner payroll, owner pay. Set up another account that's listed as taxes, because we have to pay our taxes. And often, I don't know how April 15th was for you this year. Years ago for me, they would come and would just knock me over and say, oh my God, where am I going to get this money? I never expected it. But now I have a portion of every deposit going toward taxes. This is grandma's old envelope system, if you had a grandma that used the envelope system. My grandmother, when some cash would come in, she'd apportion a little money here, a little money there. Here's the vacation fund, here's for groceries. And she always had enough money for everything. We need to do the same in our business. Apportion the money into these different accounts. When a $1,000 deposit comes in, maybe $100 is going to your profit account. Maybe $15 is going to your tax account. Maybe 50% is going to your operating expenses. Maybe 20% is going to you. But what you'll see then is now when you look at these accounts, that your operating expenses, you don't have $1,000 to run your business. You really have to run your business on $500. It's a big aha moment when you start dividing up this money. Because the natural tendency of us is when we look at that one big plate, the one big account is, oh, I got $1,000. Let me pay bills. And then the panic comes in and says, oh my God, I don't have enough money to pay myself. It's because we haven't apportioned the money. Now people tell me, but Mike, I need every single penny to grow my business. I'm trying to get profitable. And I say, if you say that, you're looking for the moment. You're not going for the small wins, the true way. You're looking for a moment and not for a habit of profitability. You have to divide up the money. Now, another thing is people say, Mike, I can't run my business on half this money. I have $1,000. You're saying run the business off of $500? I can't do that. I'm saying bullshit. You can. Because you have. You started a business from scratch. You found a way to get where you are today, and you started probably with nothing. That's pretty miraculous. And what happened when you had very little money? You became innovative. You know, necessity is the mother of invention. But when you have less money, you become very inventive. In fact, when you look at your costs in your business, there are two types of ways money go out. There are costs. You buy the expensive car. I suggest you win it. Don't buy it. Costs are sunk. You purchase something, and then the value is gone. And then there's investments. What we're doing now, where you put money towards something with an expectation of return, something that can yield a lot more money. Get rid of the costs and then squeeze all the juice out of the investments. I suggest you got some speakers coming up today. There's one amazing speaker. Me. If you didn't forget. No. Take the speakers out for beer. Good beer, and lots of it. Squeeze the juice out of your investments and cut the costs. And you can do that because you've done it in the past. The second principle to profit first is the vegetables first. And this is how it works. You ever go to a restaurant and you see they serve like the nice T-bone steak, there's a little mashed potatoes, and then there's vegetables? I bet you've experienced this, and if you haven't, next time you go out to dinner, just watch the tendency of almost everyone at the table. They'll spin around the vegetables a little bit, taste the tip of the fork. That's enough vegetables for tonight. And then start digging into that steak. And then the vegetables may go under the potatoes a little bit. But the steak goes first. The vegetables go last and therefore are never eaten. And then what we say at the table is like, oh my God, I'm stuffed. I can't eat anymore. And then the dessert tray comes by. Until now. Now I'm hungry again. And then we get the dessert. But the vegetables don't get eaten. By simply changing the sequence, having your vegetables first, our stomach fills up, we eat the steak, and we're less likely to have the dessert, and we're less likely to eat the entire steak. You're going to go home with a nice doggy bag. Just change the sequence. Well, in our business, we need to do something radical. Take your profit first. When those deposits come into your bank account, The very first transfer you make is you move a percentage to your profit account. And by the way, if you want to know the percentages, we don't have time to go into all the different percentages, but there's a handout, you can look at it later, that I've identified all different target percentages. Okay, do look at that if you wish. Don't look at it, okay, look at it. I call them target allocation percentages. And what this means is that I've studied companies of all different sizes. I suspect every company in this room, based upon your revenue, is represented in there. And I've determined what the healthiest companies in the world is doing. And I suggest that's what we target. Now, I'll tell you in a little bit, we're not going to start with that number, but that's what we're shooting for. But what I am telling you by taking vegetables first is you must take your profit first. The second thing you take, the next little dosage of vegetables, is you pay yourself. Now, people say, but Mike, I got all these important employees. I got my best people here. If I don't have enough money to pay them, like they're going to go crazy. I got to pay my best people. I got expenses to pay. I'm going to sacrifice myself. And I'm here to say, you're the best employee. You are the best employee of your own company. I've never seen someone so loyal to a company as you to your own company. You're the best employee. We must pay you the most. Therefore, you must pay yourself the first. And when you start taking a profit and start paying yourself first, this Frankenstein monster of a business that's just eating cash, all of a sudden starts to transform. It starts becoming a little more of a workhorse, a Clydesdale. It starts pulling us forward. There's less resentment. I don't know if anyone here, you don't have to show your hands, but sometimes resent your business. Like your business is just calling you its biatch. I was going to say bitch, but I was like, bitch is not appropriate for this audience. We're going to go with biatch. If your business is calling you its biatch, you need to take your profit and your pay first. And you're going to start calling your business your biatch. Third thing is taxes. Our business must reserve the taxes. Why are you paying your taxes? Your business was designed to support your lifestyle. Why do you take whatever pay you take over the year and then April 15th comes around, it's like, oh my God, I got to still pay taxes. I don't have money for this. Shouldn't be your problem. It should be the workhorse's problem. Reserve money for taxes to pay, yes, your corporate responsibilities and taxes, but also to pay the owner's pay. One little caveat, if you have multiple owners, whatever that percentage is that you allocate to the owner's pay isn't just your pay, it's for all the owners. And then the remainder is your expenses. And when you get to that remainder, that last transfer to expenses, some people say to me, God, Mike, I can't do it. There's not enough money. I need more to cover my expenses. And I'm saying, no, that is your business screaming at you. You shouldn't be paying this much in expenses. If you can't pay your expenses, it is your business shaking the crap out of you, saying, don't pay this. But do take Mike out for a beer. Please take Mike out for a beer. That's your business, that's saying that. Cut the costs, squeeze the juice out of your investments, the stuff that gives you a return. Third step is to remove temptation. I went to my dentist about 6 months ago, and he's digging around there, and I said, I think I have a cavity here on the side, because when I have something sweet, it hurts. And he digs around there, he goes, ooh. He goes, it's not a cavity, you have receding gum lines. He's like, Mike, your gums are like the age, like you're 90 years old. He goes, but I do have good news. He goes, the rest of you, I would say, in their 20s. Right? You're physically in your 20s, your gums are in the 90s. And I looked at him and said, you're a dentist, right? Not a physician. He's like, yeah. I'm like, would you know anything about the human body, below the neck? He's like, no, I really don't. So I'm like, so you don't know if this is in the 20s? He's like, no, really. I think it's also in the 90s, quite frankly. So he puts me on Sensodyne. I hope no one here is on Sensodyne. It's embarrassing when you're sitting there like this with Sensodyne. This morning I'm putting Sensodyne on. And he says, but that stuff will help, and it kind of covers up the disgustingness going on in your mouth. It's really not that bad, by the way. It is. Okay, it is. He goes, what you have to do is remove the sweets, remove temptation. So Twizzlers, which is a little bit of a little drug for me, effectively. The Twizzlers have to go bye-bye. And Chocodiles, I don't know if everyone's ever had Chocodile. This is the most delicious elixir ever. Yeah, you're nodding. You're like, dude, I know. A Chocodile is a Twinkie covered with chocolate and wrapped in love. Also called plastic, but it's delicious. Well, thank God, Hostess, the maker of Chocodiles, discontinued the line many years back, but there is a company online called Fresh Chocodiles who now manufactures them, so you can special order Chocodiles. And so I have these Chocodiles at my house. Remove temptation. You see, in our business, when you divide your money into these different accounts, your profit account and all these different accounts, there's going to be the day that you're going to say, I really can't pay expenses, I really can't cover this, I'm just going to borrow from myself. I'm just going to take a little bit from the profit account just for today and pay some expenses. And that's the day the system will start falling apart, because you're going to start stealing from yourself, and you're going to do it again, and you're not going to pay yourself back, and you're going to fall back to your old way. You have to set these accounts into separate accounts, and you have to keep it enforced. One of the tricks to keeping it enforced is remove the temptation. So your profit, when you deposit money into your profit account, you set these 4 or 5 accounts tonight. I also tonight want you to set up another account with another bank or credit union for your profits. And maybe for your taxes too, maybe 2 accounts over there. And then what happens, when deposits come in, you divide, you allocate up money to profit to pay yourself first, taxes, operating expenses, and then you transfer your profit and taxes to this other account. So that when you do your bank balance accounting, I'll tell you what that is, when you look at your bank accounts, you don't see the profit in there, it's been reserved away. Now, I like to use this term bank balance accounting because I suspect most people in here, if you're like me, don't use income statements, cash flow statements, and balance sheets on a weekly basis to measure the health of your business. If you don't do that, congratulations, you're normal. Most entrepreneurs check their bank balance every single day. You go online this morning, hey, there's some money in there. More often it's like, shit, there's no money in there. Damn it. The thing is, when we look at our bank balance, if we see money in that profit account accumulating, when there's that oh shit moment, there's no money, it's very easy to steal from ourselves. It's funny, it's that moment when there's not enough money to pay your your expenses, is the moment your business is shaking and screaming saying, we got to find ways to cut costs. We got to find ways to cut costs. That's the best, most important learning moment, yet the easy way is just to steal from our profit account. So how do we prevent that from happening? We remove temptation. Since I started using this process for myself about 5 years ago now, I started doing it. I've worked with businesses of all different sizes, from brand new startups to guys that are doing literally $15, $20 million. I work with there's a public company that's implementing this process. I'm telling you, profit first. There's one fellow, his name is Peter Laughter. We've become very good friends. He owns a nice, sizable business in New York. And we set up a profit account. He took remove temptation to the extreme. He says, I don't know what bank he was with, but we'll say he was with TD Bank. He went to Chase in Manhattan and said, I'd like to set up these 2 accounts, a profit account and tax account, so I remove the temptation. They said, wonderful. They said, we have always convenience options. You can check it online. We have ATM cards. We'll send a plane over your house with your account balance. You know, and he said, I don't want any of it. I don't want the online. I don't want ATM cards. I don't want to know anything. And they're like, what? You don't want the convenience? He's like, no, I want the least convenient option you have. And they said, oh, great. Just come to our store. It's totally inconvenient. And that's what he does. When he does a deposit, he walks a check down, puts it into the account. He doesn't check the balance every single day. He can check it by going through his accounting records, but it's difficult. It's a pain. To withdraw money, he has to go to the bank. He doesn't even have a checkbook to pull money out. He has to get the bank manager and have to issue a bank check. He's never stolen his profits. And his business, within months of doing this, has started a trend of being more profitable than it ever has, simply because he removed the temptation. It's that easy. Do the same in your business. The 4th step is frequency, the eating frequency. Like I told you earlier, most people eat too frequently or too infrequently. In our business, often we eat, yes, air quotes, we eat too frequently. And this is how we do it. We look at what money's in the bank account. If there's enough money to pay bills, we pay bills right away. If there's not enough money, we leave the bills in their envelope, don't even open them, just so hopefully they'll disappear. That was the millionaire kick, not the push kick. Two different. We don't even look at the bills until there's some money, then we open the bills and go, damn it, there's so much, and then we pay them the bills. It's very reactive paying. I suggest you cut to a process of paying your bills twice a month. And there's actually a particular day to do it, on the 10th of every month and the 25th of every month. Now, why on these particular days? Is because if you pay your bills on the 10th, the money will arrive to your vendors, the people you owe money, by usually the 15th. Half the bills in the world are due on the 15th. If you pay the rest of your bills on the 25th, those will arrive by the end of the month when most bills are due. Now, the reason we want to pay twice a month isn't so much to take care of our vendors. Trust me, our vendors will be appreciative of that, and that's good business. But there's an even bigger benefit. You will start naturally seeing the ebbs and flow of cash flow through your business. You don't have to look at your cash flow statements. You probably never have anyway. You simply pay twice a month. You'll see cash accumulate and then disperse to your accounts, pay bills, accumulate, disperse to your accounts, and so forth. And this is a process you already have done. If you've ever gone to the ocean, to the beach, anyone go to the beach? Hey, good, 4 people have gone to the beach. This section, beaches are amazing. There's these things called oceans. All right, for the 4 people that have gone to the ocean and to the beach, here's what we do. The ocean waves are coming, you bring your chair with you, your beach chair, and you come in and you start like measuring the waves. Like, okay, this is the spot. You put your chair down, you take off your sandals, and you put it in the water, and it tickles your toes. The wave comes up, a little toe tickle, and you're like, I am in heaven. I'm in heaven. Then, after a few waves, or at a certain point, you start noticing, whoa, that last one hit my ankles. I better look out for this. And as it hits your ankles, and all of a sudden one comes up, hits your knees, all your shit's all over the place. Like you're scrambling, like what the hell is this? Like, oh, there's my cell phone. You pick it, it's like a Matchbox car from like the 30s. Like you're discovering other people's shit. And then what we do is we say, oh, the tide is coming in. I better move my chair back. And you set your chair back and you sit back down and it starts tickling your toes again. Then, at a certain point, the waves aren't touching you anymore, and you move your chair forward so you're back in the waves. That's how cash flow works in our businesses. It's waves of income and just going in and out and in and out. And if we simply pay our bills twice a month, on the 10th, you can see exactly how much cash flowed into your business. And then you disperse it, profit first, then your pay second, and then your taxes, and then the expenses. All the money gets allocated, you pay your bills, and then you watch the cash flow in again. And you can monitor the health of your business. Very quickly, within doing this like 3 or 4 cycles over a couple months, you'll start seeing, hey, this is about how much money typically comes in. And you'll be very quick to determine if things are problematic, there's not as much money coming in, what happened, or if things are going well, and maybe you can ramp up the business a little bit. It's the easiest way to manage cash flow is by paying and doing allocations twice a month. Now, when I that's the principles of Profit First, those 4 things. And I encourage every person in here to do it tonight. Get started immediately. But with the percentages that's in that sheet, if you start at that percentage, like I'm saying, healthy businesses run typically bottom line a 15 to 20% profit. So if you have $1 million business, I'm saying at the end of the year, it should be cutting you a check for $200,000. Because that's what the healthiest businesses in the world do. And that's beyond just paying you your salary, which should be on $1 million business, a really healthy one. The owner will be taking about $150,000. So I'm saying in $1 million business, you should be taking $350,000. And people are like, that's absurd, Mike. I take 0. That's what I should be taking. I take nothing. And I'm saying that's not what healthy businesses do. The real healthy businesses do. They get there. So then the other extreme happens. Says, okay, Mike, I like it. I hear you. I'm going to adjust my business, and I'm going to start taking some big money. I'm going to start allocating 15% or 20% of the incoming money to profit, 15% to me. I'm going to start reserving all this cash. If you do that, it's too fast, too soon. I have an example of this. I donate blood. Does anyone here donate blood? Is there any O negatives in the audience? Oh, awesome. My brothers. Oh my God, my heart's racing now. I love you guys. So O negative is the coolest blood ever, by the way. And I got a call from the American Bloodsuckers Institute or whatever, whoever takes blood from you. And they say, we're looking for O negatives. Would you be willing to come for a bloodletting? That was the words. And I said, yeah, it's the right thing to do, so I'm going to go. And I remember walking in, and this guy's coming out. He's got this big sticker here, and it says 5-gallon donor. And I'm like, that guy is a sissy. Because today, I'm giving 6. So I go in, you grab this ball thing, you're squeezing, your veins are bulging out. This massive needle comes, and I say, hold on, wait 1 second, to the nurse. And she looks at me and goes, oh, are you okay? Are you getting queasy? And I was. I'm like, no, of course, no, I'm not queasy at all. I say, before you take any blood, I saw the 5-gallon guy. I'd like to donate 6 gallons today. And she fainted. She goes, are you crazy? Do you realize the human body has at the most 3 gallons of blood? That will kill you twice. I'm like, oh, really? She's like, the proper amount to start off with is a pint. Give a pint of blood. And then over time, that guy's been doing it for like 4 or 5 years, you hit the 5-gallon mark. I'm like, oh, that's how it works. Okay. Well, this is how it works in our business. I don't want you to start with a 15% or 20% profit allocation. I suspect the vast majority of us in this room have never taken our profit first. So in that case, take your first pint. 1%. Your body, your corporate body, won't even miss it. If you do $1 million in revenue, 1% is $1,000. I think that's right. Yeah, right? No. No, it's $10,000. No, it's $10 million. No, I'm kidding. It's not 10 million. It's somewhere between 0 and 10 million is what you're taking. All right. Take 1%. 1%. If you're a $1 million business, you won't even notice it. If your deposits today where $100 came into your account, you're taking out $1. You still have $99 to run your business. It's nothing. You won't even feel it. But you will start the profit habit. You will start contributing. So start with a very small allocation. Then I want you to move to this thing once a quarter. Every quarter, every 3 months, ramp up your allocations by 1%. So I'm saying today, when you set up these accounts, I don't care if we're halfway through the quarter right now, start this tonight and start allocating 1% of your money into profit. If you never allocated money to your own pay, start allocating 1%. If you have allocated money to your own pay, allocate that money plus 1% of your deposits. Your taxes, if you've never reserved money for taxes, start at 1%. You just want to establish the habit. Then, when the quarter ends January, February, March, April, May, June, so the quarter will end in June, I want you to take your first profit distribution. And this is a glorious day. All that money that's accumulated in your profit account, I want you to take it out as a profit distribution. Now, actually, I suggest you don't take all of it out. I suggest you take 50% out of it. So say you just started the system, this process, you have $1,000 stored up in this account. I suggest you take $500 out at the end of the quarter, on the last day of June. And $500 stays in there just as a rainy day fund. Now, this is the beauty of this moment. I don't know if you ever listened to the radio at the end of the quarter, like a Bloomberg radio or something. That's when they announce all the distributions. They're like, oh, Ford announces a 15-cent distribution per shareholder, and blah, 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 introduces such and such distribution. And if you're like me, before I started doing Profit First, I was like, oh, those companies, how do they keep making money? When you take your own distribution that day, it is wonderful. You hear this announcement on Bloomberg, and you're like, 15 cents per shareholder? My company, I'm the only shareholder, mofo. I get all of it. It's beautiful. You feel sorry for people that own stock because you have the best stock in the world, your own. Start taking a profit. Now, here's the key with your profit. You are not allowed to plow it back into the business. You're not allowed to reinvest it. It is there to celebrate. Take the $500 and go on a nice dinner, a really nice dinner, Or if it's more money, go on an incredible vacation. This is the second you'll change your mindset from the business has been a monster to now the business is serving me. The system breaks when people say, oh, I'm just going to throw that money back in the business. No, you're just stealing from Peter to pay Paul. You have to use the money to celebrate. You can take a speaker out to dinner. That's another. Your guy's like, this guy's desperate. Talking about desperate, here's a funny thing. I don't know if, total aside, I know there was a big book launch this morning I saw, pretty awesome. So I know there's a lot of authors on that collaborative book here. I love the subtitle of your book, by the way. It says, Maximize Your Profits. Awesome. So I'm online, I'm like buying this book. I'm like, give me the bonuses, give me the bonuses. Well, as a speaker, I just want to share something that's interesting is you immediately become a D-list celebrity as an author speaker. More of an F-list celebrity. And what happens, for me at least, about once a quarter, once every 3-4 months, someone somewhere will recognize me and shout out my name. Oh, Mike Michalowicz. It actually happened this morning. There was a very attractive woman, maybe you're in the, okay, thank you. Good. Very attractive woman, dinner, okay. And I'm walking, and you shout, you go, hey, it's Mike Michalowicz. And what happens in that moment, because I get recognized like once or twice a year, at first you're like, who's this guy? Who's this beautiful woman looking at? And then you're like, is it me? And then the ego comes like, of course it's me. But then the 50 people you're with said, who's that guy? And that's when you realize you're an F-list celebrity in the special education class. Like, All right, that was a total aside. So once a quarter, you take your profit distribution. And this is when you reward yourself. Also, once a quarter, you start scooching up your contribution to these different accounts. If you were doing 1% in the profit account, bring it to 2%. If you were doing 1% to your taxes, bump it up to 2%. You see, this is giving some blood, and your business will start to adjust. The miracle behind the scenes is you're going to continue to look at your bank accounts like you do every single day, and I'm telling you that is a good habit. You're looking at your accounts every single day, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, you will see the pressure down on your operating expenses, and because more money is going to your profit and so forth, you'll start spending less. You'll start spending more prudently. You'll start squeezing the juice out of the things that you are investing in. You'll start being more innovative. You'll get back to the roots of who you really are. Now, there's one more thing you got to do, and you got to do this forever. You got to join an accountability group. I've been in one for 15 years. I'm in an entrepreneurs organization, EO. I joined it when it was YEO. It used to be called Young Entrepreneurs Organization until we got older. We dumped the Y and we went to Entrepreneurs Organization. I've been in that group for 15 years. Every month we meet and it's accountability. You have the Producers Club. It's accountability. Squeeze the juice out of it, participate in it, and hold each other accountable to profit. It's kind of like the gym. If you go to the gym by yourself, there'll be days you wake up and say, oh, it's kind of rainy out, I'll go tomorrow, and you skip the gym. And then tomorrow comes, you're like, it's kind of sunny out. It's a good day to be outside, I'll go tomorrow. It's very easy to play the mind games and convince ourselves never to go. I mean, no one's holding us accountable except for ourselves. So, when it comes to working out at the gym, a good thing is to get a workout partner. Because what happens is that day, it's raining out, you're like, oh, I don't want to go. The phone rings, says, hey, I'm already at the gym. Where are you? You're like, I got to go. And you go to the gym. And then there's days that you're at the gym, your workout partner's not there. You're like, where are you? I'm here. And they show up. Of course, there's certain days that both of you are like, it's raining out. You want to go Dunkin' Donuts? Yes. Right? That's when those accountability groups fall apart. Bigger ones, 8 members, 7 members, 10 members. Those groups, there's almost inevitably someone that's up and say, we're going, we're going. There's always someone driving it forward. Form an accountability group, join the existing accountability groups, and plug this in. Plug it in. The conversation my accountability group has every single day, we start off by saying, what's your profitability? And we don't just say it, we scan in and send our bank statements so there's no lying. We hold each other accountable. Weight Watchers is the most successful weight loss program in history because of their accountability mechanism. The founder Joan Niedicht, who founded it, lost weight on her own to a certain point and couldn't get past it. And she said, you know what? I'm going to call my friends that are also struggling with their weight, and we're going to start meeting at my house once a week. They started meeting, and everyone lost the weight. Joan Niedicht started that organization 50 years ago. She's still alive today, and she's still ripped because she had accountability. I cannot encourage you enough to hold yourself and others accountable. The other thing is, if you do it with your accountability group, I suggest you're the person who leads the charge. I remember I was going to a speech at a university, and I was with my friend, his name is JB, and I was late for the speech, and I'm like hustling, and he's coming along to just attend as a friend. And as we're walking by classrooms, running down to the auditorium, he points in the room and goes, oh, there's the smartest student. And I'm like, what? And we keep on running, and he points out again, he goes, oh, there she is, she's the best student in the class. I'm like, what? We were at the third one, he's like, there he is, that's the best student right over there. And I'm like, all right, JB, you're driving me freaking nuts here. What is this best student thing? He said, oh, it's very easy to pick out. I can always pick out the best student. I said, is the person taking the most notes or the person that sits up front? Those are always the best students. He goes, no, no, no. The best student is always the one teaching. You see, when you teach it, you have to master it. So the professor is always the best student. In your accountability group, lead the profit first, because you'll become the master of profit first. The formula has always been this. Sales minus expenses equals profit. You know, that's GAAP accounting. Sales minus expenses equals profit. You probably all do this. That's the profit formula. And I'm here to say it's total bullshit. It's the worst formula in the world. It's GAAP accounting, and GAAP is crap. Because what that formula says, thank you, sales minus expenses says sell as much as you can, pay your expenses to sell more, and profit is the leftover. Profit's a leftover. It's an afterthought. And you know this formula isn't working if on April 15th your accountant calls and says, hey, congratulations, you posted a little profit this year. And you're like, I did? Where? There's nothing in the account. That's because the formula is wrong. I mean, logically it makes sense, but behaviorally it doesn't work. The right formula is putting your profit first. The right formula is sales minus profit equals expenses. And what happens here is you still sell as much as you can, you then take your profit out first, and the remainder, the leftover, is for expenses. And you learn to build your business around that. Now, I do want to leave time if there's any Q&A and so forth. But if you do want the detailed notes from this, because we went over a lot of stuff, you do have some on your table. I have more for you. We're doing a book signing later on at the iSheriff.com table. Thank you for sponsoring the books, by the way. There's a free book for you back there. Come back there. Give me your business card. If you're a beautiful woman, you can say dinner, Mike. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Married. I'm kidding. I'm not really. Yes, I am. You could write notes, the word N for notes on it, and I will email you the notes. And if you want to talk about anything, just write, let's talk or something, and then we can talk about anything you want to talk. Like, does the abductor really work? Or like anything. One final thing I wanted to share. When my daughter put the piggy bank in front of me that day, I do believe in God. I mean, to me, that was my moment to start learning this and start teaching this. And I pray that you continue to do it. But I remember when some intense moments happen, they move very slowly. I don't know if you've played sports or something. There's certain moments in our life where if there's a fearful moment, time compresses and goes like really slow. And in that moment, as my daughter was putting down the piggy bank, and she's like, I'll cover us. First of all, my mind was moving so slow, her voice went from a 9-year-old, I'll cover us, to a, I'll cover us. And I'm like, Beelzebub. And she puts it down, and on the piggy bank, which was pristine, she kept this in mint condition, not a single crack or scratch on it, there was like a huge amount of duct tape covering the stopper. And there was a rubber band holding the stopper up. And it wasn't that moment, but it was a little later on. I said, you know, Adela, why is all that duct tape on? Is a stopper? Did you lose the stopper? And she said, no, Daddy, it works fine. She goes, I put that duct tape in there so I would never steal from myself. That money is so I can buy a horse. Right, and then I had another heart attack, a horse. My daughter's 15 years old now. She has paid for a trip to Europe for herself, plane, everything, with her friends. And she has enough money, unfortunately, to buy a horse. She's removed the temptation. It is that simple. Start taking your profit first, always. Remove the temptation to steal from yourself, and do this twice a month, 10th and 25th. It'll change everything for you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, if we wanted to do some Q&A, love to do it, Jeff.
Yeah, I've got a couple just from the virtual side of things. Specific to our industry here, if a large client, well, this could be for anyone, if a large client doesn't pay on time, don't I have to use some of my profits to cover overhead until money comes in?
Yeah, so there is moments, right? There is moments where you got to pull from it. And that profit account, like I touched on earlier, can be a rainy day fund. But the question should change now. Why isn't that large client paying you on time? Are they truly your best client? In fact, this is something we talked about the last session we did about the pumpkin plan. The number one revenue maker sometimes isn't your number one customer. But it should change your perspective, because your best customers will pay you well, but will also pay you on time. So that would invoke the dialogue with them. Why are you not paying me on time?
Another question kind of related to this is that not all clients have the same profit margin each month. It varies. How am I supposed to predict profits in my business of doing this? So really questioning the traditional revenues minus expenses, and now I've got my profits here versus...
Yeah, so profit, so this is a percentage system. Traditional profit thinking is like, oh, I'll reserve $1,000 a month, $1,000 a month. But our income varies. We don't necessarily know what's coming. There's typically an average, but we don't know what's coming. So what we need to do is take a percentage, and therefore it's always the same percentage is taken. 10, 15% is reserved for profit. What's going to happen is the remainder is for your operating expenses, 50% of the deposits, maybe 40%. That money is what's available to pay expenses. Now that also fluctuates. So, because it's a percentage, what it does is it forces our business to play to the average, medium, or slightly below. Here's the real quick analysis you can do. Look at your revenues for the last 12 months, right? And in the chart system, I have this thing called the instant assessment that's on your table. It's real simple. You put your revenue in for the last 12 months. Now, I know there's no manufacturers in here. There's certain types of businesses that have huge revenue, but they buy a lot of product to support that revenue. In that case, you have to adjust your revenue to what I call real revenue. So if 50% of your business or more is reselling a product, and you do 10 million, but you're reselling $5 million or $6 million of product, we'll say, you're really a $4 million business that's moving $6 million of product, if that makes sense. What we do is you take your revenue from the last 12 months, and then you run these percentages through it. And it'll say, well, your profit should be here, your income should be there, and then you look at what you're really expending for operating expenses, and it says, well, it should be way lower, and then you sit down and say, how do I get my costs down to be where it should be? That's how you do it, if that makes sense. Or maybe I made it more confusing. Okay, hopefully that made sense.
Are you suggesting that that in your chart of accounts in your accounting package that you can't even see the profit and tax account?
No, so you have to, good question. I wouldn't ask for it or look for it. I would hide it, but you have to account for it, right? Otherwise, it's fraud. So yeah, you do have to account for it. You do have to see it in your GL accounts, but I do suggest you hide it. And if you use QuickBooks or Intuit or Sage or whatever it is, any of those products, they all have the ability to hide accounts. I would just hide it. You just don't want to see it. You do want to see it on the end of the quarter when you do your distribution, and you're like, whoa, that's a lot of money. Otherwise, hide it away from your visibility. You just want to remove the temptation totally. Yes, sir.
Mike, thank you. This is a second in a row great presentation from you.
So I had two in my life. I've now had two.
That's right.
I love it. Thank you.
That's right. So do you have any tips for systematizing this? Or is it, man, you go with your deposit to the bank and you just tell them how to allocate it? That's my first question. And then secondly, how do you handle debt payment, debt service?
Oh, great questions. So first, how do you systematize it? It's a really simple system. You know the process. If you have a bookkeeper that does it, or you maybe do yourself, first change those dates, the 10th and 25th. But here's a little technique for systemizing it. On my bank accounts, I rename my accounts at my bank. One says profit, and next to it, I run a 17% profit. In parentheses, it says 17%. And then for my owner's pay, I take 22% currently. I'm trying to get up to 25. In parentheses, it says 22%. And what my bookkeeper does is, her name's Tina. Tina will go into the accounts. She confirms the percentages. All this money is accumulated in an income account. That's where all my deposits go. And then she allocates them out to these other accounts. So that is the system. Notify your bookkeeper, or if you do it yourself, do this on the 10th and 25th, and here's the exact percentages, and even put it into the name of the accounts. It's that simple. What was the second question?
The debt.
Debt. Oh, so what if you have debt? And you know, I maybe should have even mentioned this earlier on, and that's why it's such a great question. I suspect a lot of businesses have debt in here. And debt can be kind of embarrassing. When I lost all my money, I didn't kind of finish the story. I had $50,000 of credit card debt in 2008. $50,000. And I remember a commercial coming on saying the average American has $5,000 credit card debt. I'm like, I want to be an average American. I so badly want to be an average American. There is a phenomenal book, and Robin is friends with the gentleman who wrote it, Dave Ramsey, called Total Money Makeover. And the Total Money Makeover is about, among other things, tackling debt. And this is what he suggests. He calls it the debt snowball. And this debt snowball is this. Take all the debts you have, from small credit cards, maybe even some personal loans, vendors and so forth, and sort them out not by the interest rate, but sort them out by the smallest amount to the biggest amount. Then what we do is pay all the minimums to maintain your accounts as best you can, but the smallest debt we want to wipe out first. Every remaining penny you have, wipe it out. Hit it, hit it, hit it. When your profit distribution comes, you still do profit. We need to get in a profit habit. You still allocate profit on that quarterly distribution, and you take out, say, $1,000 in profit, $999 hits debt, but you still have to use $1 to celebrate with a Starbucks coffee or something. You still need to celebrate, but the bigger celebration is destroying debt. Dave Ramsey's concept is as you start wiping out debt, when you start wiping out small debts first, they're going to start happening fast, and it builds confidence. Most of us have been told, go after the big debt, the biggest interest rate, and it looms for years, for lifetimes. It doesn't match our behavior. Go for the smallest debt, crush it, and then all the money that was being used for that small debt, start using it toward your next bigger debt, and you'll start building this debt snowball, and it'll go all the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
I have a question. If you have some recommendations on reporting to your team. So in our company, we like to provide the open book of what's going on so everybody can understand how they can be a part of it. So as we now allocate out, per deposit, our percentage of profit, how do you have any recommendations on how you present that to your team in a way that doesn't make them feel like you're getting rich off of them? Does that make sense?
But you kind of are. I'm kidding. Yeah, no, I hear you. So we did, as my IT company, we did open book management. We never disclosed salaries. That's the one thing. So owner salaries and so forth. First thing that was surprising, when we opened the books, people generally were like, that's all we make? Like they thought because it was $1 million business or a $2 million business that I was taking home like $1 or $2 million. So, I mean, that's what they thought. And when we opened the books, like, that's all you make? I'm like, yeah, it sucks, kind of. But with the profit, so it's my company now, we have these profit numbers. Every employee is accountable for profit. And it's your decision if you want to share profits. That's what we do, or however you want to handle it. But we tell everyone we're targeting a 15% profit. And when you take something on, if you are just doing administrative work, we got to find out how to cut costs so we can get a 15% profit out of it. If you're a project manager and you're taking on a project that's say a $50,000 project, 15% of that, $7,000, $8,000 is going to be removed, and you got to get this project done on $42,000. So everyone's very aware of the percentages, and every facet of the business is doing it. And I mentioned I did this with a public company. They're doing that now too. They have hundreds and hundreds of employees in this one division, and everyone knows we got to be hitting a 15% profit. And when they get assigned a project, whatever the number is for the project, 15% is automatically reserved, and they got to run it off the rest. Thanks. You're welcome. Yes, sir.
A mechanics question in terms of moving money around, as you suggested, for owner salary and so on. If you have one account that actually is used to pay the payroll, how do you manage that if you have a separate account for owner's salary?
So one to pay your employee's payroll?
Right.
Right. So what I gave you was the 4 basic accounts. Some businesses I have up to 8 or even 10 accounts. And by the way, your bank, or you may say, oh my God, 10 bank accounts? Like that's a lot of bank accounts. That's a lot of reconciling, and there's bank fees. Let me tell you, if your bank, you set up 10 accounts at your bank and it's resulting in more fees, talk to the bank manager and say, I'm not going to pay more fees. And if the bank manager doesn't negotiate, and almost all of them will waive the fees, find a new bank. But what I do with the payroll is I have employee payroll and I have owner's payroll, equity members. And they're 2 separate accounts. Employee payroll is a predictable dollar amount. It could be $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, whatever it is. It comes out of my operating expenses. So the percentages get dispersed. Income comes in. On the 10th, all the percentages get dispersed. Then I have an automatic transfer from my operating account, whatever's in there, a dollar amount that goes into employee payroll. I'm separated out of it, but goes into employee payroll. And that's how I run it. Does that make sense?
Well, my question is a little different because when you have a payroll company doing your payroll, they usually take it out of one account and then
Okay, so then in that case, so I just take distributions. In a case where you're taking payroll, are you an S Corp?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Amazing I knew that. It was like, is this guy a magician? I am actually. What you do is you still have the owner's pay account, you do a transfer of your dollar amount into the employee pay. Then you watch your owner's pay account, and either it'll be accumulating slowly, you're running business well, or it's depleting, you're actually taking too much payroll, or you're not selling enough. Okay. Is your middle name John? Okay. Do you weigh? No, I'm kidding. Guys, absolute privilege. Thank you. Let's grab a beer later.